Greetings from Visalia, the childhood home, where we've got to talk about an electric 49ers draft pick. We even have some tape to show you. This is Junior Bergen, who is an FCS record holder in the return game. You talk about Brock Purdy being pick number 262. Well, I don't think that you can ignore pick number 252, the final pick of this 2025 draft for the 49ers. There's one of his record 8 punt returns for Montana. He had 3 punt returns for touchdowns this past year in just 10 tries. And watch the kicker here. You have no chance. Whoop. Junior Bergen. 100-yarder to the house. That was a kick return. This player here, I mean, a lot of people toward the end of the draft kind of tune out. And they made that mistake with Purdy. I wouldn't make the mistake with Junior Bergen because he's just an excellent football player. Here's one of the 8 record punt returns. By the way, 8 punt returns for a touchdown. That is an absurd number. And the feel that he brings, he knows exactly how much room there is between the defender and the sideline. We'll look at the relative athletic score in a little bit. We'll see that it's not great speed. It's decent speed. It's 4.5 speed. But look at the feel. Look at the start-stop ability for Junior Bergen, the way that he can create space on the football field. I get it that he's playing at a lower level, but he has a nose for the end zone. The crowd at Montana goes absolutely crazy. And the numbers speak for themselves. The 49ers on tape saw a guy that took a very, very difficult role and made it look easy. And that's the punt return role. And 49ers fans should know probably better than any other team's fans how hard that punt return role is, because they've seen so much of the floor, and the floor has dropped to the basement for them in critical situations. So you can go back to Kyle Williams in the NFC Championship game against the New York Giants, January of 2012. But you could also talk about the Super Bowl in Las Vegas against the Kansas City Chiefs, where it was a punt return play where it wasn't the returner who saw the ball hit off his leg, but it was one of the 49ers blockers on the play, one of their specialists, Darrell Luter Jr. Ball hits off his calf. Kansas City is able to recover the muff, and they turn the entire Super Bowl around. And the 49ers, because of one of the worst special teams units in the league, end up suffering big-time heartbreak. Last year, they literally ranked number 32 in special teams efficiency across the whole board. So why not use pick number 252 on a bona fide specialist? This is a player who the 49ers have said is not going to be competing at receiver. They're very straight up about that. This is a player whom the 49ers say is going to be competing for return specialist, dedicated look at that return specialist position for the 49ers. So this is Junior Bergen's relative athletic score. When I first saw this after the 49ers drafted him at pick number 252, I said, okay, well, late 7th round pick, doesn't have a whole lot of athleticism. I saw a lot of red on the relative athletic score, which obviously means poor or below average. And it said very poor at composite size grade. And on initial look, it could scare you a little bit. You could say, oh, it says very poor, not good size. This guy probably doesn't have much of a chance at the NFL level, coming from small school college FCS. But in terms of a punt returner, you actually don't care that much about size. In fact, I would argue that in terms of punt returning, you want that size to be a little bit smaller, because as you saw on the punt return tape, and I'm sure that we'll watch it again here in a little bit, it's about fitting through small windows. It's about agility. Punt returners are not tall players. Sometimes you have to duck in the face of an oncoming hard sprinting gunner as a punt returner. So I don't think the size, which is the biggest concern of the relative athletic score here, for what the 49ers want Junior Bergen to be, I don't think the size is actually that big of a problem. He's 5'9", in between 5'9" and 5'10", 184, actually is very strong. The strongest component of the score here is the bench press. 17 reps is impressive at 5'9". I mean, it's not quite an Upton Stout territory, who's 5'8", given the 49ers a good 21 reps, which was the most out of any DB at the combine, but it still is the signal of a strong player. And I think that does link back to mentality. That links back to the dog in the player that you want. And I think Junior Bergen might have that. Now, what you really like here is the explosion grade. 10-foot broad jump, 36.5-inch vertical. Those are both good numbers. And the 40 is passable at 4.5. I mean, it's in the low 4.5s. We've seen players with worse be punt returners at the NFL level because it's a little bit more about the start-stop, maybe a lot more about the agility and the start-stop than it is about the straight line speed. The straight line speed has helped Junior Bergen finish some of these returns to the house, but when we watch the tape, it's a little bit more about the ability to change direction and the ability to also feel space, not just athletically take advantage of it, but feel where to go and then use that burst to go into certain different spots. One big question here is this is a player whom the 49ers have said won't be competing for a receiving job, but will be trying to make the team as a return specialist. How does that affect somebody like Jacob Cowing, who is a returner, obviously has done some of that for the 49ers, but is competing to be a receiver for this football team? So let's take a look at the depth chart to see how this might affect second-year man Jacob Cowing. This is the 49ers receiving room that I project right now to make the 53-man roster. So, and Ayuk, I don't project to make the 53. I project him to be on PUP to start the season because Brandon Ayuk is shaded here in pink. Demarcus Robinson is shaded in the teal color that represents free agent signings for the 49ers. But there is a chance that he also will miss the start of the season because he might be suspended for the DUI arrest back when he was with the Rams in December. So if both of these guys do not make the initial 53 because of an injury and a suspension, you currently only have 4 projections for the 49ers to make the team. And that's Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Watkins, the rookie out of Ole Miss, Jawan Jennings, and Jacob Cowing. Typically, this team has taken 6 wide receivers on the 53-man roster. So that means you could start dipping into the talent on this side of the projection, which is the side of the 90-man roster that I don't project to make the roster, but obviously they would have to fill out that position if 2 more or if 2 players were unavailable. So that's when you start to look at somebody like Tariq Owens, who I think really impressed the 49ers with his development last year. That's T.O.'s son. Isaiah Nair, this is the electric. I mean, I'm talking electric in the title here. We could talk electric about the undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, one of the best athletes in the entire 2025 draft class. 4.40 40, 6'4", 218 pounds. A lot to like physically about Isaiah Nair. Can he develop the consistency as a receiver? But there also is where you might get Junior Bergen to be able to have an open roster spot to slip in. If he impresses the 49ers enough in the preseason as a return man, even if he's not delivering at wide receiver, Junior Bergen can slip in to one of the 53-man roster spots early in the season because the 49ers might have an extra one because you're typically only having 5 receivers up on game day. You just have 6 up. And Junior Bergen would be the 6th, but he wouldn't be playing receiver. He'd be a return specialist. Now, Jacob Cowing early in the season, I don't know if it affects his roster status, but as the season progresses, you could start talking about Cowing. Is he the guy that would be inactive if Junior Bergen indeed did impress the 49ers? Is he the 6th receiver on this 53-man? And this is the type of competition that you want to foster as a team. You want Jacob Cowing to be fighting for game day active spots. You want pressure coming at this from all different angles. And Junior Bergen can deliver this pressure from another angle if he can become a bona fide 49ers punt returner. Now, one thing I like about this guy is that he's got tremendous positional versatility in his history. He was a dual threat quarterback in high school. He was one of 8 kids. So he had a lot of brothers and sisters growing up, one of 8 kids, but he played quarterback to begin. And that tells you that he was the best athlete on the field, as you would hope, as somebody who was drafted to the NFL level. But he switched to running back, where he played early in his career at Montana. So he's got some running back skills, which I think have obviously ported over into his punt return game, which we can watch again. It's just too fun to not watch here from Junior Bergen. We're also going to watch some of his receiving game in a little bit, but this guy moves from quarterback to running back to wide receiver. Obviously now he's going to be a punt return specialist. And I think that every single one of the positions that he previously played shows up in the way that he attacks the punt return job. This is the punt return tape again. There's a little bit of that straight line speed there at the end, again, against FCS competition. So the closing speed is not going to be the same. That's something that the 49ers are going to have to see how it projects in the NFL level. But how about this one? We're going to rewind a little bit. How about the vision? This is where you see Junior Bergen's history as a running back. Because this is why it's tough to be a return specialist. You have to see where this is going to open up over the middle of the field, and there's a whole heck of a lot of traffic. There's a lot of subtle movement here from Junior Bergen to find his way and dance his way through that hole. And then obviously we can all laugh at the kicker right now, who's got no chance in the open field. The kicker looks like he just gave up, and he's very frustrated as Junior Bergen. I mean, the Montana crowd, it looks electric there. That place is bouncing up and down. The quarterback position, the background there, punt return is a position where you've got to settle things down. I paused it here very quickly. I think that one of the harder things to do in football, and you'll talk to return men, and return men can chime in and talk about this, is backpedaling. Watch Junior Bergen backpedal while this ball's in the air. Obviously, the coverage unit is coming in on him. He's got to backpedal, make that catch, don't muff the punt, and then he's got to recalibrate, figure out where everybody is, and begin his return. So his background as a quarterback, I think, helps him survey the field. His background as a running back helps him make a few of these moves. You're surveying the field with a vision of a quarterback, the astuteness of a running back, and then you've got to have the speed of a wide receiver to take it to the house. So I do think that his positional versatility shows up in his ability to return these punts. Look, he's going backwards. Start and stop. Yeah, I mean, that was a start and stop on a dime. Really, really nice stuff from Junior Bergen. You watch the tape and you just say, this guy is, and that crowd is going nuts in Montana. This guy is a football player. And it shows up in the punt returns. 49ers fans, again, for the 49ers as a whole, should not take the ability to do this for granted because they've seen such a low floor. This guy actually brings a high ceiling as a punt returner. Mike was joking, just watch this guy enter the NFL and become one of the league's best returners from day one, coming from pick number 252. And we should not discount these 7th-round picks. As we know, Brock Purdy, one of those guys at pick number 262, Junior Bergen at 252. Let's talk about the Montana connection, not the Joe Montana connection. There's one there, but the Montana connection. Eddie DeBartolo Jr. obviously lives over in Whitefish. We were in Whitefish because I knew the 49ers were going to draft Junior Bergen. So I made sure that I did that pre-draft trip to Montana to do some early scouting. It was funny because I was in the CVS in Montana, and I picked up a book that was just there at the checkout line, and it said the history of NFL football in the state of Montana. And I was like, oh, cool. So I open it up, and the first page I flipped to, Colt Anderson, who's the 49ers assistant special teams coordinator, new assistant special teams coordinator for the 49ers. Colt Anderson was in that book. He went to the University of Montana, same school as Junior Bergen. And Colt Anderson obviously went on to the NFL. He was the special teams coordinator of the Titans last year. He was hired by new 49ers special teams coordinator Brant Boyer. Comes over from the Jets. Boyer has loved to hunt in Montana during the off seasons for quite some time. And his son is now a kicker at Montana. So both 49ers top special teams minds, Brant Boyer and Colt Anderson, both new top special teams minds, have very strong Montana connections. So they're very familiar with Junior Bergen. And they definitely saw Junior Bergen play football. And they told Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, who might have given them a special teams pick, just given how bad the unit was last year. So they told him, hey, you get the last pick of the draft for a specialist. They might have said, well, why don't you take a look at this guy who we know very well from the University of Montana, because he absolutely dominated there. Again, 8 punt return touchdowns. He had 10 punt return opportunities last year, 10 times where he didn't call for a fair catch. 3 of them he took back for a score. I don't care what level you're playing at. That shows some football wherewithal, some football know-how from Junior Bergen. Now, they have already said that he's not going to be a receiver at the NFL level, but in the spirit of never say never, let's watch Junior Bergen's receiver tape. Obviously, at 5'9", you're going to expect him, if he does anything at the NFL level, you're going to expect him to be a slot guy. And, the 4.5 speed is enough at the FCS level. I just chuckle as I watch some of this tape. He creates a lot of space in the Big Sky Conference. very, very quickly. He's an outside receiver. No, he was coming out of the slot in this play. And yeah, that's a go route. Well thrown football. That's Junior Bergen, 4.53 speed. The Idaho Vandals, they call this the Kibbe Dome. Or I think it's the Kibbe Dome or the Kibble Dome. And I think it's the Kibbe Dome in Idaho, in Moscow, Idaho. Correct me if I'm wrong, Idaho fans, but there's a tough catch from Junior Bergen in breaker over the middle of the field. Here he is lining up in the slot, running the outbreaker. You can tell he's strong. You know, 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, 4 hits, 5 hits, 6 hits. Don't take him down. Some of those 17 bench press reps showing up for Junior Bergen. Runs one here into the seam. Touchdown. Good body control. Far side. Is this going to be an outbreaker? Yep, it's going to be an outbreaker. More good body control. And now we get to watch the punt return tape. I think you guys had fun watching this punt return tape. So why don't we watch it again? It's the body control. It's all about it's intelligence and body control at that punt returner position. And I can't overstate how bad the 49ers have been in the return game, have been on special teams over the course of the past several seasons. They haven't returned a kick or a punt for a touchdown since 2011, Ted Ginn. And they've only returned I think 1 kick for a touchdown since 2011. I think it was Richie James Jr. And that was in 2018 against the Seattle Seahawks. That was when Sebastian Janikowski just gave up, like the kicker that we just saw give up in the kick return here. That was even funnier, though, when Sebastian Janikowski gave up against Richie James. So, I mean, punt return is a part of the game where coverage has gotten really good. It's hard to return them for touchdowns in the NFL, but so the ceiling is harder to attain. You know, the ceiling being a touchdown, something like this that we see from Junior Bergen, but the floor can really kill you on a punt return. I mean, the floor, you could fumble, turn the ball over. All of a sudden, it's a backbreaker. The 49ers have seen that way too many times. So everything that you do at that punt returner position has to be prioritized around removing the floor, making sure that floor is much closer to the ceiling or at least in middle ground. And somebody like Bergen was reliable in that regard. There's a reason why Trent Taylor is still on this 49ers roster, and that's because he is a reliable punt returner. He's somebody that's not going to fumble the ball. He's not going to muff the ball. And you could just say, as Kyle Shanahan, don't screw it up, right? And I think that's been Shanahan's philosophy for special teams, but I think that philosophy actually ends up leading to special teams screwing it up. Maybe not necessarily with the punt returner position. You're okay, fine. He's not going to muff it. But if that's the thought that you're giving to the entire special teams unit, then ultimately there's not going to be that push for greatness, that push for innovation. And you do see this special teams unit screw a lot of things up. I think it's just kind of by osmosis, by the way that it's mentally approached. So we've seen this offseason, the 49ers finally say enough is enough with the special teams unit. Let's bring in new leadership that is going to be allowed to aggressively push the envelope. And that's Brant Boyer. That's Colt Anderson. It looks like they had their own draft pick in Junior Bergen. They obviously had some free agent signings they could go out and get. Luke Gifford has a connection to both of these guys, especially to Colt Anderson from the Tennessee Titans. That's a specialist at the linebacker position. Saran Neal is one of the top-level specialists in this game. They signed him after, he had spent several years with the Buffalo Bills, and then the Miami Dolphins. But Saran Neal is on this roster, and so is George Odom, who's one of the best special teams tacklers in the game. They decided to keep George Odom. So a lot of players are going to be zeroed in on that special team spot, and I think Junior Bergen is the latest for the 49ers. So we're in Visalia. This is the childhood home. This is the pool that I grew up swimming in when I was a kid. Speech went well last night. That was fun. 100th anniversary of George McCann. Shout out to my elementary school. I had the keynote speech there. We talked about the 49ers, and Fred Warner had a football there, a signed football. I think it was a signed Fred Warner football that was part of the silent auction that was auctioned off to raise some money. So shout out to Fred Warner. Signed football at the George McCann 100th anniversary. I was lucky enough to speak at yesterday. Good experience here in Visalia. Now I'm ready for some 49ers questions before we're going to go out to the farms today here in Tulare County. So maybe we'll have a fun video from one of those. I may have already said it in another video and Mo didn't catch it, but how many draft picks do you think that can actually start for the 49ers this year? Good question. Why don't we open it up in the 49ers 90-man depth chart? So draft picks are shaded in green. I don't think that we're going to see a draft pick start immediately on offense, although I think Connor Colby has a chance. 7th-round pick at guard, because he's going to be competing for this left guard position, right? So maybe Connor Colby has a chance, and otherwise you'd have to have injuries on the offensive side of the ball. However, on defense, this is where it gets real for the 49ers. I think C.J. West, Alfred Collins, Michael Williams, all very good chances to start. I think Nick Martin has a good chance to start. Right now, I have him at strong side linebacker, but he can usurp D. Winters, and Upton Stout can begin at the nickelback spot if you consider that a starting spot. Some people don't. Some people consider that just a nickel spot, and but I think it should be considered a starting spot. Some nickel plays a lot. That is 5 players who might be able to start on the defensive side of the ball. The Rams had a big youth movement last year, and they had just 3 players start on the defensive side of the ball. So I think up to 5 can start defensively, and maybe Connor Colby on the offensive side. That would be a total of 6 potential starters for the 49ers next year. So that would be exciting, wouldn't it be? Like 6 rookie starters. It might lead to some growing pains, but I think it's something that the 49ers would willingly embrace as they work on making this roster hungrier, younger, faster, and stronger. You know, up to 6, Pharrell says 3 to 4 easily. So, I mean, that's probably where it ends up, because, yeah, you never want to assume that it's going to be the max, right? But I think up to 6 for the 49ers are realistic, just looking at it right now. Hope Boyer makes a difference from OJ here. Pettis had a great college return career and just couldn't put it together with the Niners. Well, the one thing about Dante Pettis, and I think the 49ers learned this, the player was a little bit soft, right? He didn't score well in the strength metrics, and obviously it was more of a finesse player. I think the 49ers have looked at, even at the positions that require a lot of speed, explosiveness, agility, change of direction. So the DB positions, and obviously this punt return position, the 49ers have really, really valued strength. And that's because they say, even if you are a guy that needs to play with explosion, we need you to be a dog at the NFL level. So look what's the only green spot of Junior Bergen's relative athletic score. It's the bench press. 17 reps on the bench press, which is really good for a player of his size. So I think the 49ers believe that the correction they made after Dante Pettis was a look at, they're just trying to get alpha dogs on this team. And they're not going to just get a 6'5", 250-pound punt returner. They're still going to have to go with a body type that works at that position, but try to find a body type that works at that position who's also strong. And I think that that's part of the 49ers philosophy, to try to make this punt return and all these positions. DBs, they've got a lot of small yet really strong defensive backs. I think that's how the 49ers are trying to make it work. Game 7 tonight, not looking as good for the Warriors as it was a couple days ago. We got people thinking the Rockets are a dirty team. It's possible. I think they were trying to take swipes at Steph Curry's thumb. I do remember a time a couple of years ago, I think it was exactly 2 years ago, where the Warriors lost Game 6 at home against the Kings, and they had to go in the first round on the road, Game 7 to Sacramento, and Steph Curry might have dropped 50, right? So anything is possible. I do think this Rockets team is better than that Kings team a couple of years ago, but it's going to take the Warriors digging deep tonight to reverse the trend of the past couple games. Any more UDFA possibilities? If somebody gets cut, then yes, somebody would have to get cut for that to happen. They're going to have a tryout coming up at the rookie minicamp at the end of this next week. I think Thursday or Friday and Saturday are the 2 days where that's going to happen. So we'll see if somebody impresses enough at the tryout for the 49ers to cut one of the undrafted free agents who's already on the team. But I think that they're more or less set. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the free agent market. Amari Cooper, somebody who we've been talking about. And obviously the kicker position is a spot that the 49ers are going to have to fill with competition. So Kenny Almondarez is going to be coming in. He is the Lou Groza Award winner out of Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns. He's going to be kicking at the tryout. If the 49ers like him, they might sign him, or they might sign a veteran instead. They might be leaning veteran to compete with Jake Moody over the course of this offseason. Tyler thinks that special teams and defense got better while the offense got worse slightly. The Niners sneak into the playoffs with a young team in a weak schedule. I don't know how you can say the offense got worse, though. They were missing Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk for most of last season. So just by virtue of those two guys being back, if you assume that they're not going to miss as much time as they did last year, I would think that would make the offense better, right? Deebo Samuel was, the Deebo Samuel the 49ers had last year was not a good player, was not an efficient player. That is addition by subtraction. Now, the Deebo Samuel the 49ers had in the years before that, obviously you miss, but they already missed him last year. So if we're comparing offense, which was already a top 10 unit last year, despite all of its problems, to what they'll have this season, I would say that they should be better. The defense, it's going to be hard to be worse. The special teams, it's going to be impossible to be worse. Schedule, obviously, will be easier. So there's a reason to believe that the 49ers can be right back on top of things heading into this 2025 season. Natasha says that Tyler is just being a hater. Well, I took his comment in good faith. It's not training camp in a few days. It is rookie mini camp. That's a little bit different. Training camp is what starts in late July, and that's obviously going to be a much bigger deal than rookie mini camp. This is just a chance to get to know the rookies. They get their feet wet. Some tryouts will be happening. We'll get to meet those guys in person for the first time. Go for Baroque asks, are you sure the 49ers will have Tanner Mordecai on the 53-man roster rather than the practice squad? Assuming Curtis Rourke has a faster than expected heel time. Well, no, I'm not sure. And the reason that I have it set up like this is because I think that Curtis Rourke is not going to be available, at least at the start of the season. And if he's not going to be available for half the season coming off the ACL surgery, you might as well just redshirt him. And if you just redshirt Curtis Rourke, he's on IR, doesn't take up a roster spot, then Mordecai, I think, is probably your number 3. But I'm not sure. If Curtis Rourke has a faster than expected heel time and he's a better QB and he develops quickly over the course of training camp, then maybe Rourke is on that 53-man roster. But we have to wait to see how that all pans out. Is McCaffrey suspended? No, McCaffrey's not suspended. McCaffrey is healthy, and he's going to be back for the start of the season. When will Purdy get his contract extension? And I think I lost my camera, guys. Unfortunately, it turned off. That's too bad. The nice camera turned off. So I'm going to end the show because I don't want to sit here from the bad camera all too long. We're having to use the computer camera. We're 29 minutes anyway. Super Bowl 29. Last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl. Thanks for watching here from Visalia. Everybody, take care.